Welcome to the Get Your Healthy Life podcast, the space where hope, healing, and holistic wisdom come together.
It's just amazing how many different symptoms are connected with chronic fatigue syndrome, which is probably why, your regular physician can't quite grasp that one thing, to call it or to diagnose it as.
Right. And I think a lot of people, if they don't have a diagnosis, and honestly, I don't really need a diagnosis to help a person fix their body, try to clean up their body. But those that try to just, I guess, cover it up by drinking coffee or drinking caffeine, that's actually worse. And I think over time, it just makes that so much worse. So that's another thing, educating people that, if you are really struggling with something, we need to figure out why and what's going on rather than just trying to limp it along with more coffee.
Yeah, or just accepting it as life and just trying to go on, like, oh, well, I just have to live with this. And, you don't have to live with it. You don't have to live in pain. You don't have to, feel tired every day because, you're supposed to wake up with energy from sleep, right? It's supposed to heal us and we're supposed to be re-energized in the morning. So, yeah, I think it's important for people to know that they don't have to settle,
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you seen anybody, I guess, after the whole COVID fiasco, I had read that there was a lot more people that were experiencing chronic fatigue syndrome. Have you noticed?
That I hadn't actually heard that, but I can see why that would be. And here's why. One of the very common causes is that what I mentioned earlier, that internal underlying infection type thing. Well, people who have had COVID, or even some with the COVID vaccine, I've had several who have had the COVID vaccine come into me saying, I just don't feel well ever since I've had it. And so we, of course, go through the entire evaluation to see what all pieces are going on in their body. But a lot of times it's just detoxing out that virus that's still stuck in the organs, tissues, and cells. It's stuck in there. We need to help get it out. And as you know, when someone has a bacterial infection, doctors can prescribe some sort of an antibiotic. But if it's a viral infection, there really is no medical treatment for that. And so we count on our immune system to go through and take care of that virus infection, let it run its course, and let the immune system take good care of it. But in a lot of cases, our immune systems are really depressed. We just are not able to fight off these infections very well. And a lot has to do with the fact that, well, if our gut is a wreck, we're missing nutrients and vitamins. We're missing the essential raw materials that our body needs to be able to fight these things off. And so while, yes, we might feel a little bit better, it's still something's still in there. And so that's where I come along. And so when people work with me, I just love to talk about this and how we're going to get rid of that virus, get it out of the body. You'll feel so much better.
Yeah, that's for sure. My goodness. Yeah, I just, in passing, watching things and listening to people, they talk about how they just don't feel well after getting that shot, after, I guess having that virus or whatever the case may be. It's important for people to know, hey, there is a place you can go and someone that can help you after the fact. Some people had to get it, Yeah. So, also, one thing that I did when I was dealing with chronic fatigue is exercise, not, running or cardio or HIIT or anything like that. Something more gentle. Do you encourage your patients to, move their body? Is there anything?
My favorite is walking to start with, because it's not going to stress the body like the HIIT and those kinds of things, or CrossFit or whatever. And then once they've built up their walking a little bit, I do encourage resistance training. And again, I don't need you to be a bodybuilder. I just need you to have enough strength that you can still live independently when you're in your 90s. So those are the two things that I mostly recommend.
That's good. Yeah. I know I remember walking. I had went to an acupuncturist, and so he said, make sure you walk outside every day, at least 45 minutes. And then yoga is good. Qigong is another thing that's good as well. But, the most important thing is to move your body, get that fresh air, sunshine, vitamin D, if possible as well. Yeah. Do you normally prescribe a type of diet? I know one thing to stay away from is sugar.
That's right. Sugar and caffeine would be a list. When you're dealing with adrenals, Yeah. And then it kind of just depends on the person and what other things are going on. For a lot of us, dairy and gluten, we can be sensitive to them and have no idea that we are sensitive to them. But then if you do actually take it out of your diet, you might realize, oh my goodness, I have so much more energy. I didn't even know that was causing me an issue.
Yeah.
But I do also know that it's difficult for a lot of people to cut those out of the diet. So at the very minimum, I say, okay, can we at least just pull back and, reduce the amount that you're consuming while we're trying to go through the process of healing the body and, doing all the things we need to do to get it functioning well.
Yeah. And that, like you said, it can be difficult because people are often addicted to these foods, whether it's carbs or sugar or carbs that turn into sugar. Yeah. Caffeine, as you noted earlier. And so I find it's one thing to get rid of them, another thing to try and replace them. It's like people have to change their lifestyle and, try to replace those old habits with new healthy habits. That's what I think. Yeah. So that's good. And how about stress? How would you advise someone if they have a lot of stress in their lives? And sometimes it's people that are stressing us out.
Right. And sometimes stress can look like I have a young baby who doesn't sleep through the night, so therefore I don't sleep through the night. And that's not something that's just a switch that we can turn off and on. I mean, that's a season that they're in, and until they get out of that season, they're going to continue having that stress. Same is true with sometimes someone's job or, relationships. Sometimes those are just things that we have to do what we can, but we know we can't take that away. So I do a lot of deep breathing. I really love deep breathing. I tell people it's free and you can do it anytime, anywhere. And it really does help to relax the body. If you just stop for a minute and just take in some really good deep breaths and let oxygen get to all the cells of the body and then breathe it back out. I just really find that myself. I find it very calming and soothing. And even though I know, okay, in 5 minutes, the kids are going to be running in or something is going to be happening, it's going to be crazy, at least I have those few minutes of calm and I've given my body some little extra oxygen. I love to couple that with going outside into the sunshine, because I feel like when you have the sun on your face and you're taking in the good air, to me, I love that feeling. And while you're outside, have you heard of grounding? Grounding is where you're on the grass, in your bare feet or whatever. You can lay on the grass if you want. When our body is absorbing the energy from the earth, that too, I find that to be very relaxing. But for those who can't go outside or can't do some of those things, there's always things like journaling and prayer and meditating and just being alone by yourself in the quiet. Just turn off all the sounds, turn off the computer, the phone, whatever, and just be quiet. And that can help to relieve a little bit of stress too.
Yeah, I have to say that when I was experiencing my stress, I didn't even know I was experiencing stress. And I think people probably don't even realize it because, especially when you're working, you're just doing what you need to do. You think, okay, let me just get this done and out of the way. Let me just get through this period of time. And a lot of times you don't even realize that you're actually stressed out. And it's just wild, right?
Yeah.
It's just wild. And another thing that I do is, I like to ground, but like here in the north, right? It's getting cold. It's about to get cold. So I sleep on a grounding mat, at the end of my bed. And I am a testament. It helps, okay? Especially if people have inflammation in their body. It helps so much. I mean, any symptoms for anything I felt, I really don't feel anymore. So those are very important. Grounding is important, I would say, because when I was working nights, my circadian rhythm was off,
Yes.
And so everything was kind of flipped. So grounding is important for that, right? Yeah, I've just found that to be very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm trying to think any other symptoms. Brain fog, you mentioned the muscle aching and the ligaments. Can you speak a little bit more about the ligaments? You're speaking of the aching and whatnot.
Yeah, so apparently the adrenals produce lots of different hormones. And one of them is an androgen that has some direct correlation to ligaments. And so when our adrenals are not functioning properly, we're not producing hormones exactly as we should. And then that has something to do with the ligaments. And I actually have members of my family who have always struggled with loose ligaments, especially in the ankles. So that means they roll their ankles very easily, have a lot of sprained ankles, that kind of thing. And so back at the time, I didn't know that had anything to do with adrenals. And even if I did, I wouldn't have known what to tell them to do about it. But now, since I've learned that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that it was related to the adrenals. Let's work on your adrenals.
Wow, that's another one of those hints that you would never think of. That makes sense too, because I remember injuring myself. Look, I have a story. I have a story for everything that's mentioned. I injured myself. I was just stretching, just I forget this certain type of stretching. And it wasn't quite yoga, but it was just a certain funny type of stretch. And I injured, like, I guess not my ankle, but kind of like between my calf, my ankle, that area.
Okay.